ladies and gentlemen, I would now like to introduce our second speaker for the day, Mr. Aneesh Bangia, co-founder of Open Door. Aneesh Bangia is a co-founder of Open Door and an IIT Madras graduate from the class of 2010. Aneesh co-founded Open Door with Abhishek Kariwal in 2013. Open Door now partners with over 300 schools, providing thinking classroom and thinking assessments programs to foster deep thinking in children. May I now request Mr. Aneesh Bangia to please join us on stage and address the gathering. Let's hear it, ladies and gentlemen, for Mr. Aneesh Bangia.
Hello. Everybody, my name is Aneesh. And I am one of the co-founders of Open Door. Has anybody here heard about Open Door? Okay, thank you. Some of you here are also using Open Door in their schools. I want to begin with a story from my school days. When I was in school, I was my class topper in the class 10 board exams, class 9, class 8. And being the class topper has been the biggest regret of my life. Because in order to become the class topper, I just remembered and memorized every equation, every diagram in the book. And whenever there used to be an assessment or a worksheet, it used to reward me for good memorization. Then I went into IIT and we realized that schools must ask good questions during the course of teaching, in their worksheets, in their assessments. And when they do that, students can truly think and understand the concepts well. So Open Door offers two programs to schools. One is called Thinking Classroom, another is called Thinking Assessments. This is Abhishek and I. We started Open Door in 2010. And we do a lot of work on critical thinking and metacognition. These are some of the schools that we are working with. So let me begin by asking a question to all of you. When you see this image, what are the first adjectives that come to your mind? When you see this image, what are the first adjectives that come to your mind? Symmetric, majestic, magnificent, marvelous, expression of love. It is indeed a symbol of love. And then when I show you this image, we took this image from a science book. What adjective comes to your mind now? How about beautiful? How about magnificent? Important, but not beautiful, not magnificent, incomplete. Okay, they'll talk about that later. It is complete. One of the biggest misfortune of science and math learning in our school is that such beautiful concepts, it is so beautiful. But it looks so bland, it looks so academic, it looks so chemistry. Why is this beautiful? This is the phenomena by which trees and plants make food just from air, light and water. Anybody here who has not had their breakfast in the morning so far? Ma'am, you've not had? If you have not had your breakfast, could you just go out in the sun and make food like plants do? You cannot. Plants have this magical ability to make food, and that's called photosynthesis. So we decided to design a question on this, and the question is, how would the world change if us humans could also do photosynthesis? So in our program of Thinking Classroom, when teachers teach photosynthesis, they ask this question to students, and then students come up with some really interesting answer and really appreciating photosynthesis for the first time. So the premise here is that science and math looks like this, but it is much more beautiful than this. Science and math is not just equations, not just formulae, they're filled with amazing concepts waiting to be unboxed. So one of the things that we have done is that we have created these, So we've created these workbooks called Thinking Classroom, in which, mapped to NCERT, teachers ask good questions when they teach science and math. They're offered from classes 4 to 10. So let us see some examples. Everybody knows Virat Kohli. If Virat Kohli has to play a cricket match today, what should he have for breakfast? This is one of the questions in the topic of nutrition from our Thinking Classroom workbook. What do you think should he eat? Any suggestions? All of you are certainly his dietitians. Proteins? Okay. Carbs? What would you recommend? A dietitian is a professional job who has to take decisions on diet of a lot of professionals. What do you think should he eat? Proteins or carbs or balanced diet? When this question is asked in a classroom, children come up with various responses. Some say balanced diet, some say a lot of proteins. The correct answer is that today he must load more carbohydrates in his diet. He wants to build muscle, he must have protein on most days, but today he needs to have more carbs. One of the examples from the topic of decimals is that if you look at two boxes, in one box we have put some numbers, in another box also we have put some numbers, and we are asking students that from which box can you find the largest number easily? And if you see, there is one box that you will always choose if you want to find the largest number, and that is box 1. So this question helps children understand and appreciate decimals, that there is a need for decimals, and then there is need for fractions also. This is the example of a two-step thinking process where we are showing two images and we are asking students that in which of the pictures do you think the water channel will have a clearer water after a heavy rainfall? Which one do you think? Which one will you pick? Second or the first? Or both? How many of you think the first one? Okay, some of you. How many of you think the second one? Okay, more of you think second. Here the correct answer is the second one, but I want to tell you why this is the two-step thinking process. The first step is to realize that because of the trees and their roots, the soil erosion will be less, and then to realize that because of less soil erosion, the water will be clearer. So this is an example also from Thinking Classroom. I'm showing you three images: ice, some pieces of chalk, and a hot iron rod. Which of them do you think has heat energy in it? Which of these three objects do you think has heat energy in them? This is from the topic of heat from Thinking Classroom. And teachers ask this when they teach heat. Just because of, how many of you think ice has heat energy? Some of you feel. How many of you think that hot iron rod has heat energy in it? So the correct answer is that they all have heat energy, but a common misconception here is to feel that ice may not have any heat in it. It is cold, but it has heat also in it. In order to prove this, we ran an experiment. Let me just play this. There's no audio. Okay, let me do the audio for this. What we did was that
it is filled with a liquid. It is now kept on ice, and the liquid
so we
begins
took
to boil
ice and we
vigorously.
put a kettle with
Isn't
liquid
it amazing?
nitrogen.
But why is it boiling on ice? Well, the hint is that the kettle is filled with liquid nitrogen and its temperature is around minus 70 degrees Celsius. This means that ice which is at 0 degrees Celsius is very hot for the liquid nitrogen because there's a gap of 70 degrees. Therefore, it can supply heat and boil the liquid. Let us look at it through a thermal camera. Look at ice. Looks like hot coal in comparison with the kettle.
So we did this experiment to prove whether ice has heat. And when we put liquid nitrogen on top of ice, we saw that ice was providing heat to the liquid nitrogen. An example from math would be the example of these two chocolates. Which of these two chocolates do you think has a longer perimeter? Same? Okay, I think some of you know the answer also. Here, how many of you think it is the second one? That is a common answer also. No? So the correct answer is that the two chocolates have equal perimeter. While the area has reduced, the perimeter has not really changed. It is the same. Okay, let's go to the next one. Let's talk about predator and prey. Manjula ma'am spoke about predators. These are of the different kinds. They roam around in forests. Which of these two animals do you think is the prey, and which of these two animals do you think is the predator? So which one is the predator? The first or the second? How many of you think the first one is the predator? Okay. And how many of you think that the second one is the predator? The difference that you must notice is the difference in the eyes. In one of the animals, the eyes are further apart, and one of the cases, the animals are closer. So the answer is that the first animal is the predator, and the second one is the prey. This is from the topic of adaptation. And what is interesting is that the first animal, its eyes are closer so that they can focus on the prey, and animals two's eyes are further apart so that they can look around and not be hunted down. Imagine being an animal, getting up in the morning and not having Swiggy or Zomato or a kitchen. You have to venture out in the forest and find your food. If you can't find your food, you can go extinct very soon. So the eyes, those animals whose eyes are closer, they survive. And there are some animals who wake up in the morning and they can become anybody's lunch. If they become somebody's lunch, they are gone, extinct. Those who are able to survive are able to move forward. So my last question is about a girl who's standing between two gardens. She has a hot rose garden and a cold jasmine garden on two sides. Both gardens, they're large in area. What do you think will the girl smell? Will she smell rose because it's hot, or will she smell jasmine for some reason? Why, ma'am? Both the gardens, I must tell you, have same smell. So we cannot say that the jasmine anyway smells stronger. They smell equally strong. It has been constructed like that, ma'am. So this is an imaginary situation where rose and jasmine flowers smell equally strong. What will she smell? Who thinks rose? Okay. How many think jasmine? Okay, at least all of you are thinking for sure. We may be right or wrong, we don't know. What happens, and that's what a thinking classroom is about. When a teacher asks this question to 40 children, some may be right, some may be wrong, but now they're all waiting for the answer. You will not allow me to get out, I'm sure. You want to know the answer. So, yes, sure. Would you like to answer? Yes. So Anand sir is right that the rose garden, it heats up the air above it. That air being light, it rises up and it creates a low pressure behind it. And on the other hand, the jasmine air is cold, heavy, and at a high pressure. That air fills that gap. There's a breeze that blows, carrying it with it the jasmine fragrance. And this is the topic that is taught, by the way. Land breeze, sea breeze, convection, water cycle, 3-4 times at least by learning science. I never understood it because I was always asked very similar questions on land breeze, sea breeze. So just to summarize, Thinking Classroom is a set of workbooks on science and math, good questions. Teachers, okay, let me just, I'm going in the wrong direction. So, fine, if you can go back to the presentation, I'll just sum it up. Thinking Classroom can complement any textbook that you're using. CBSE is now asking schools to use NCERT books. So these are not workbooks. They can just be added to any textbook that you're using. Okay, and how teachers use it is that teachers would teach a topic and then they will do a worksheet from the Thinking Classroom. When students have finished answering their questions, then teachers will discuss and revisit the concepts. So earlier teachers typically tend to teach a lot. Teachers who are very passionate, they tend to explain very well. But here teachers will speak less than before and they will allow students to think more. And once students are done thinking, they will discuss the questions. Thinking Classroom is mapped to any textbook that you're using, offered for classes 4 to 10. And then the difference between a typical classroom is that in Thinking Classroom, you'll see teachers speaking less, students thinking more, and you'll see more of the students involved in thinking. There's another aspect to Thinking Classroom that I want to cover. Has anybody here heard about wait time? Wait time. You've heard about it, ma'am? Can somebody explain what is wait time? This is a tool that if once you understand, it can change your teaching forever or change any sort of interaction forever. So, ma'am, what do you feel? Sure. Sure. So, ma'am is right. I'll just build on that. After a teacher has asked a question, I asked some questions today, and before accepting the first answer, there is a time gap. That gap is very critical because in that gap people are thinking. So, there was a research that was conducted in the US in the 1970s to figure out how much time are teachers giving as wait time after asking a question. Can you guess how much time was found in that research as the wait time? The time after completing a question and before the answer is revealed in a classroom. How much time do you think it was found? Sorry, ma'am? Less than a minute, that much is correct. But how much do you feel? Could you take a guess? 15 seconds. So if I've asked you a question today, do you think tick, 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 tick? Not even that. The research found that teachers give 0.9 seconds as the wait time for children to think. In thinking classroom, when teachers ask a question, children first either discuss among themselves or they write down their answers before the answer is revealed. Otherwise, the other children were thinking and their thinking is disturbed, and after some time we realize that children have stopped thinking. That is only because we don't ask good questions and we don't give wait time to think. So that ends my presentation. We are at Open Door outside, we have a stall, and we would love to talk about thinking classroom and thinking assessments. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Aneesh. And I would now request Mr. Anil Sharma to please join us on stage to felicitate Mr. Aneesh Bangia. Let's open door. Thank you so much, Mr. Aneesh. Thank you so much, Mr. Anil. And